what is going on in Ukraine, what challenges we are facing, and also to reconfirm that we reconfirm our obligation with the internationally binding treaties on nuclear security and safety, namely the Budapest Memorandum and NPT. I'm also here to meet hopefully to meet my Russian counterpart, Minister Lavrov, who is also participating in this forum, to establish a dialogue to discuss how peacefully we can settle the conflict that exists between Ukraine and Russia. And I am also here to talk to the international community to unite our efforts to preserve peace and stability in the globe and to guarantee the peaceful future for the European and international young generations. So I'm ready to answer your questions. I don't know if it's colleagues.
Your Russian counterpart may not want to meet you. So do you have any confirmation that the meeting will be held? And then secondly, if he doesn't, would you ask your other counterparts to get more pressure on Russia for you to do?
So we are asking for this meeting for the last 3 weeks since the new Ukrainian government was nominated. And I believe that since we both are here, there is a high chance for a meeting. And we are open for a dialogue with the Russian government, with the Russian foreign ministry. And I know that our partners, Secretary Kerry, the European minister, has been trying hard to establish a kind of contact group, a meeting between Ukraine and Russia, and we are grateful to them for these efforts. We believe that we will succeed.
Natasha Moskovaya with the Voice of America. I'm wondering if you're satisfied with the response of the West, and what kind of statement would you expect today after the meeting of G7?
You know, we are very much pleased with the international community reaction on what is going on in Ukraine. And it's the Western world been watching what is going on in Ukraine 3 months or 4 months ago when the Euromaidan revolution started. But afterwards, the European Union, the United States, other Western countries were started not only issuing a statements about situation in Ukraine and about the Ukrainian-Russian relations and about the Russian invasion on Ukraine and annexation of the Crimea, but they started concrete actions. And this is the process and in progress, the reaction of the Western world towards the crisis. And I believe that it's the intensity of the actions will be higher with every day if Russia will not stop.
Okay, maybe you gentlemen.
Yeah. Hi. Matt Steinglass, The Economist. OSCE monitors entered Ukraine today, as I understand, and fanned out to look at human rights violations. What kinds of human rights violations are they allowed to look for, and what is Ukraine prepared to do if they find that, in fact, people in the Russian-speaking areas of Ukraine feel that their rights are being violated?
So, OSCE monitors mission has started its work in Ukraine, and the decision to deploy this mission was made on last Friday, after 3 or 4 attempts to make a consensus, to find a consensus in the OSCE, which was blocked by Russians all the time. So after accepting almost all proposals from Russia, we agreed that this mission will go to Ukraine, having the mandate to visit all the regions, including Crimea. And but we understand that the need, or the priority for the mission is to go to the eastern and southern Ukraine to monitor, first of all, military movements there. But being a transparent and open government and country, we allow the monitors from the OSCE to visit other regions in Ukraine to inspect the human rights violations, if there are any. If they want to go to Western Ukraine, they could go, and we could discuss with them their reports if they find such violations or the lack of support from the local governments for the national minorities' rights. So we agree with this, but once again, as I said, the priority for this mission should be eastern and southern Ukraine and Crimea.
Lady in the brown dress.
Hi, I'm Ellen Brans from the Netherlands. What are the risks of an actual military conflict with Russia?
The position of the Ukrainian government is to use all peaceful means, first of all, diplomatic means, but also economic means, to resolve this conflict peacefully. However, we don't know what are the Russians' plans. What are the plans of President Putin? That's why we ask for meetings with Russians. We wanted to find out what they are thinking about Ukraine and what they are thinking about their plans towards Ukraine. We wanted to live peacefully with Russia. We want our nations to coexist, and they will coexist in the future. So we wanted to sit down around the table, talk, and find a solution, and maybe drink vodka even. But since we don't know these plans, the possibility for the military intervention is very high. Taking into consideration the intel information about the deployment of a very big number of Russian troops on the eastern borders of Ukraine.
Niels Richter van Telegraph newspaper in the Netherlands. Would this peaceful coexistence between Ukraine and Russia be imaginable with Crimea staying with Russia?
We think that we could coexist peacefully, but we will never give up Crimea. So we will continue, we will strengthen our efforts in bilateral talks. We will strengthen our efforts together with the international community to return Crimea to Ukraine and to keep Crimea as an integral part of Ukraine. As you know, international institution and none of the countries has recognized the referendum results in the Crimea and the annexation of the attempt of the annexation of the Crimea. So we believe that with this combining efforts, we will return control over the Crimea, full control over the Crimea.
The gentleman in the back.
Yeah. Julie Border from The Guardian, what is your latest information about the situation on the eastern border, your eastern border?
Yesterday, all around Ukraine, there were a number of rallies in support of the unity of Ukraine. Big number of rallies, peaceful rallies, with Ukrainian flags, with Russian flags also in some cities, with the Crimean flags. And in eastern Ukraine, there were some number, I should acknowledge this, there were some number of rallies in support of joining Russia. But the number of people participating in these rallies was relatively very, very small. and a comparison to to the number of people who participated in the rallies even a week ago, and such rallies a week ago. So the situation in eastern part of Ukraine is stabilizing, is becoming more normal, and the new nominated local governors are controlling the situation and returning it to the normal path.
Lady, back here.
Phoenix TV, Chinese television. We would like to understand more why Ukraine said thanks to China while President Putin showed the same attitude. Since you have the Chinese president here, are you facing any meetings with the Chinese delegation? Maybe talking about the solution of the reclaimed, like if my memory is good, $30 billion debts of China, from China.
China is a very important member of the UN and the international community. And China played, I think, and we think, the constructive role during the debate in the Security Council, UN Security Council, on the resolution. Unfortunately, because Russia used a veto right, this resolution did not pass. I am planning, I know my colleagues been meeting with Chinese colleagues recently. Our ambassador is acting quite intensively with his counterparts, with his colleagues in China. I've been meeting Chinese ambassador in Kyiv many times. So, and I believe that we have chance to meet the Chinese delegation here in the framework of this summit. We think that we have to deliver to China the message that the new government, Ukrainian government, is committed to fulfill all the agreements we signed as Ukraine with China. And we will do this. And for one thing. And the other thing is that for us, I think that China will understand this quite well. We need the reforms, but what is on the top of our reform is the fight with the corruption. And that's why I think that we will have a common ground for understanding.
Yes, Dutch newspaper, the Volkskrant. What do you expect and hope for the G7 declaration this evening? And what is your stance on the sanctions, the trade sanctions, which are threatening towards Russia?
The expectations are high, but we have to be realistic. The European Union and G7 members, it's a structure that needs some dynamism to make a decision. And they made a lot so far, but they also understand that, as we see it, they also understand that it's not enough to convince Russia not to go further. And of course, we would welcome the move to the next stage of sanctions. I think this is the way, again, using the word of peaceful means, this is a way how peacefully we can solve this problem without using military.
Hi, it's a follow-up question on this. If, sorry, Charlotte McDonald from The Independent. If the G7 members decide not to expel Russia from the G8, what sort of message would that send? Do you think it would send a strong message if they did expel them? If they didn't, what message would that send?
To be creative on this, I think that if Russia will stay in G8, it will be chance to Russia and the other G7 members to talk to Russia. If Russia is expelled, it's a good sign that there is an empty space and there is a country which is ready to stand for this space or to be part of the group. and it's Ukraine.
Elena Chernenko from Kommersant, a newspaper in Russia. Some politicians in Ukraine say that it was maybe a bad idea in the 90s to give out nuclear materials, and that maybe the situation would be different today. What is your opinion? Was it good or bad to get rid of the nuclear materials?
I will say you straightforward. It was a good decision. And there are some politicians in Ukraine saying that it's good for us now to return to the 1990s and to start the exploration of uranium and have a nuclear weapon in Ukraine. It will not help. How it's help? We are not using nuclear power. It's a danger for us and the danger for the region. And it does not help to to establish cooperative contacts, because the threat is not the way, is not the methods how you convince people and how you talk to people. So I think that it was a very good decision. We are not going, and the government's, the today's Ukrainian government position is to reconfirm our commitments to the non-proliferation treaty as a non-nuclear state. Maybe two more questions. Have another meetings. Maybe I have to go because maybe I'll have a very good meetings.
You stood up at Reuters. I actually wanted to ask about that meeting. If the text does take place, what will you be offering your Russian counterpart? What will you be putting on the table in addition to asking the obvious things from the Russians? And also, there were reports today that Ukraine has cut off utilities to Crimea. Is that true? Can you talk about this?
I didn't hear the second question because
There were reports today that Ukraine has cut off water and electricity to Crimea. Can you say whether that's true, and if yes, why?
With the first question, first of all, I'll be demanding Russia to withdraw troops from the Crimea. And I'll be demanding not to provoke Ukrainian civilians and Ukrainian military in Crimea and eastern regions of Ukraine. And I will demand not to escalate situation in Ukraine. And but at the same time, I'll be offering our readiness to start talks with Russia, the partner and the full-fledged member of any possible contact group that could be established. And we have such an option as under the Budapest Memorandum. All four countries, Ukraine, Russia, the UK, and the US, signed this memorandum, and according to this memorandum, they have a right to have a consultations at any stage. So we will be offering these options to Russians to start such a consultations. With the electricity and water supply, there are a lot of speculations, and as a Ukrainian government, we agreed that we will not cut off water and energy supply to the Crimea because it's a part of Ukraine and because Ukrainian citizens are living there, and we are taking care of our citizens. So.
The last question, James Penelacant, Financial Times. You said that you want sanctions to move to the next level. Could you be a bit more specific? You want Europe and the US to impose economic sanctions? And
I will not reveal you all of these things.
Yeah, and the second thing is NATO yesterday said that the presence of Russian forces on the border is increasing, and they're are increasingly concerned. Are you scared that there might be a full-on invasion in the eastern part of Ukraine?
As I said, we are very much worried about this concentration of troops on our eastern borders, but at the same time, we are ready to defend our homeland. Our military and civilians living in eastern Ukraine, Ukrainians, Russians, other nationalities, they are ready to defend their homeland. And our military is also ready to defend Ukraine. Thank you very much. Hopefully, we will not go for this. We will peacefully solve the problem. Thank you.
Nuclear security.
Graag! kijkers. Ja, dat zag ik. We waren ons aan het ja, ik zwaai wel. Ja. De jeepie was het voor, dat koos jeepie.
Nuclear security.
Because you're the first one. You have to be a bit more.
That's your rehearsal.
No. I'm so happy that you're here. More than that. Most of it. Director General.
I don't even have to introduce.
Director General, this is an honor. I'm so
Very
happy
nice to
that
see
you're
you
here. Good
again.
to see you. Good to see you.
Very nice to see
And
you.
we will do so much help also for your organization.
Congratulations for
Really fine.
very nice
Big success.
preparation.
Absolutely. But this is also thanks to you. You've done so much. So, thank you for that. Fantastic. Maybe. At 3 o'clock we will start.
Yes.
And, in the meantime, I hope you will enjoy hospitality.
Thank you.
Okay, see you later. Real nice. So nice to meet you. Great visit. Everything's great. Thank you so much. Really?
Yeah, so it worked already.
This is good.
Thank you. Thank you.
Always have good if somebody helps
We
too.
love added value. We have it. Thank you.
I hope later this year I will see you in Brazil. Brazil is the finals, but we're not sure yet. Thanks for the photograph. More nice to meet you also. I hope you will find it a very enjoyable event. Absolutely. See you at 3 o'clock. Bij mij staan. Staan we voldoende naar voren? And this is important because this is not only news, there's the foreign affairs minister of Sweden. Absolutely. It's good that you're here. And the feeling is going out. Very good. Very good.
And stupid enough is flying over to you.
Yes, well, and what's it? In that case, we have your voice of authority. Absolutely.
Sunny and nice day.
Absolutely. So far, so far. Yes. don't know each other. We're good friends. It's very special to now see in the conference itself. I think for the photography.
Nice seeing you.
Yeah. Sun is shining. Those are good signals. I think for the photographs we all
Nuclear security. Nuclear Security Summit 2014 main feed.
Polska jest wręcz szósta w indeksie krajów, które najlepiej wdrażają normy międzynarodowe. Mamy, jak Państwo wiecie, reaktor nuklearny do celów naukowych i jest on traktowany zgodnie z tymi najwyższymi standardami. Tak jak kilku innych przywódców, w tym kanclerz Niemiec, sekretarz generalny ONZ, ale też i inni, przypomniałem także o tym, że trzeba utrzymywać wiarygodność gwarancji bezpieczeństwa, na przykład takich, jakie dane zostały Ukrainie w memorandum budapeszteńskim w 1994 roku. Ukraina zrobiła w 1994 roku dokładnie to, co chcielibyśmy, aby Korea Północna zrobiła dzisiaj. I dlatego bardzo ważne jest przywrócenie integralności terytorialnej Ukrainy, tak aby nasze przyszłe tego typu gwarancje były wiarygodne i interesujące dla krajów o ambicjach nuklearnych. Może zakończę przekazując Państwu, że zdecydowałem się odwiedzić Ukrainę ponownie. Odwiedzę Kijów i Odessę już w środę. Bardzo ważne jest, aby tak jak misja OBWE, tak też ministrowie spraw zagranicznych państw członkowskich Unii Europejskiej i w ogóle OBWE odwiedzali Ukrainę, nie tylko Kijów, ale także te miejsca, co do których istnieje domniemanie, że mogą stać się miejscami kolejnych ryzyk związanych z integralnością terytorialną Ukrainy. Także mam nadzieję, że inni europejscy koledzy też takich wizyt dokonają. Dziękuję bardzo. Well, as I said in Polish, I've, along with other speakers, Chancellor of Germany, Secretary General of the United Nations, and the Foreign Minister of Ukraine, think that the Budapest Memorandum of 1994 is important. That if Ukraine did the right thing back then, she did exactly what we would like North Korea to do today. Namely, she gave up her nuclear ambitions and actually surrendered her nuclear arsenal in return for guarantees of her independence, territorial integrity, and freedom from pressures. Well, if those kinds of guarantees are to be credible and attractive in the future, we need not only the parties to the agreement, but all members of the international community are represented here to come up to their commitments. And the G7 could reaffirm that. Nie, niestety pan minister Sergiej Ławrow wyszedł podczas wystąpienia ministra spraw zagranicznych Ukrainy i już nie wrócił. Uważam je za nieaktualne. Przyjąłem je rozrywkowo.
With the Wall Street Journal, Europe has added Russians and Ukrainians to the sanctions list. What, in your view, should Europe's next step be? The Americans seem to want to proceed with economic sanctions against Russia. What's your view?
I don't want to speculate in public. These are the discussions that we're having in private.
I'm from Norwegian Broadcasting. Okay, we know that the NATO Secretary General job is discussed in the margins here. So, if you allow me, Mrs. Sikorsky, 2 questions. Would Poland be ready now to support the Norwegian next Prime Minister Stoltenberg for the job? You might not be wanting to answer that, but can you then please answer the second question? Do you see it as necessary to close this process in NATO before the European elections in May?
I don't want to speculate. There are several candidates. I think a successful candidate should present an agenda for restoring NATO's core mission, which is commitment to the territorial integrity of its member states. And if we are asked for support, we will look to a candidate who will present a credible program of strategic reassurance of countries of Central and Eastern Europe.
But do you see it is important to close this before May, the European elections?
I don't think it's important.
Panie ministrze, przed Ukrainą, przed całym kryzysem, miał pan dobre kontakty z Sergiejem Ławrowem. Jak pan czyta, jak pan sobie tłumaczy, albo mi wytłumaczy, jak rozumieć to wyjście? Czy to już jest tak, że nie chcemy rozmawiać? Co to oznacza i jakie było pana nastawienie do tej rozmowy? Co pan chciał przekazać? Drugie pytanie, kiedy prezydent Obama przylatuje do Polski?
Jeśli chodzi o drugie pytanie, to łatwe. Proszę śledzić strony internetowe Białego Domu. A jeśli chodzi o pierwsze, no to jest pytanie oczywiście do władz rosyjskich. No, minister Deszczyca, minister ukraiński, nie wygląda mi na faszystę, więc nie wiem, dlaczego go w taki sposób traktować. To jest tylko konsekwencja wyjścia podczas ministra Deszczycy.
Ukrainian National Agency Forum. It is clear that Poland and the Baltic countries can better relate to the threats that Ukraine is facing now. Do you think that other European countries comprehend this threat as well, and are they doing enough to mitigate it?
Well, it's natural that countries have a sort of gradation of sensitivity in direct proportion to distance. Because closeness also means usually a close historical experience, but it also means interest, security interest and commercial interest. And so I'm never surprised that countries of the Mediterranean basin are more sensitive about developments in, say, Libya or Syria. We learned as Poland during our presidency of the EU to feel responsible for all of Europe's neighborhood. But I hope everybody sees what important principles are at stake in the Anschluss of Crimea. Namely, I mentioned one, the Budapest Memorandum, but also the principle of not changing borders by force. And that should be important for all of Europe, because these sorts of things happened in Europe before, and we know with what catastrophic consequences.
from Norwegian newspaper Aftenposten. 2 questions. Do you think that other countries will give up their nuclear weapons when you see what happened to Ukraine? And the other one, does Poland have a candidate for the Secretary General post in NATO?
I appreciate your lobbying on behalf of your former Prime Minister. I think it's remarkable Norwegian solidarity in the room. What was your first question?
Do you think other nations would give up their nuclear weapon if, when you see what happened to...
Would you?
I'm asking you.
I think you've answered your own question.
James Patella from the Financial Times. Minister, are you concerned that, Russia, yesterday NATO said that there's a growing presence on the borders. Are you concerned that they might be stepping up their kind of invasion and moving to Transnistria or other parts of Ukraine?
Well, I'm sure you've followed the statements by NATO authorities, including the Supreme Allied Commander, Europe. And this is, of course, very worrying. One usually doesn't put forces on such high alert for no reason. Pani żartuje.
Ostatnie pytanie, the last question.
Panie Maciej Sokołowski, TVN24. Właśnie jeden z generałów NATO mówił o tych możliwych przemieszczaniu wojsk wewnątrz NATO na granicę właśnie także na przykład z Ukrainą, czyli na terytorium Polski. Czy Pan opowiada się za takim rozwiązaniem, że te wojska powinny być przemieszczane na przykład właśnie na terytorium Polski?
No, proszę też nie przesadzać z eskalowaniem napięcia. Polska nie czuje się wojskowo zagrożona i mówimy raczej o przesunięciach natowskiej infrastruktury i stacjonowanie jednostek, ale w takim średnim terminie, a nie w jakimś ekspresowym, awaryjnym tempie.
Just something you said in Polish about, are you planning to meet Mr. Lavrov today?
It was being considered by both sides, but unfortunately Mr. Lavrov left the room during the speech by the Ukrainian foreign minister, so I'm afraid that it's over.
Okay, so it's not going to happen?
I don't think so.
Between the Lavrov and the Ukrainian counterpart?
Well, that's unlikely either, I think.
Just to follow up on the comments that you made earlier on about upholding the commitments of the Budapest memorandum, what does that specifically imply today in your view regarding Ukraine? Well,
I think it's crystal clear. I think you know what territorial integrity means. And the Budapest Memorandum is a political obligation on the United States, UK, actually also France and China, who've confirmed it. And remember, it was also reconfirmed already under the presidency of Barack Obama. So these countries have to have the duty to restore the credibility of such guarantees.
Thank you, Minister.
Dziękuję. So you don't believe it's open very tight? What? You don't believe it's open very tight?